Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to present you. Merde. I'm going to present you this paper on the distributional impact of farm level adaptation to climate change within European agriculture. So it's co-written with Pierre-Alain Jaillet from INRAE. So I first deliver you the two key findings of this paper. So we find that autonomous adaptation from farms might lead to a better situation in terms of social welfare than the present one. This is due to an increase in average income and an increase in income share for the bottom 5 deciles. And we also show that the farm's region and type of farming strongly contribute to explain the inequality of income variation induced by climate change. So through the obvious connections between climate, meteorological values and agriculture, agriculture accounts for a large share of studies trying to assess the effect of climate change on the economy. And these studies concern various economic features, for instance, land use or farmland values, as well as various regions, like USA, China, or Europe. And in the majority of these studies are focusing on the average effect of climate change and conceal the potential heterogeneity between farms and between agriculture. So this heterogeneity can be of interest, particularly for European Union, because there is a common agricultural policy that shows clear redistributive objectives. It's written in the Treaty of Rome that one of the objectives is to ensure a fair standard living for the farmers in the community. So climate change impacts the agricultural production, and this could be softened by an adaptation from farmers at the intensive margin, like for instance a change in input like fertilizers or water irrigation, and a change in the extensive margin, a change in the crop in the area allocated for a crop, for instance. So this paper addresses the following questions. So how climate change and farmers' adaptation might potentially impact the distribution of European farmers' income, and what are the main drivers of these distributional impacts, and what is their marginal contribution to this inequality of income induced by climate change. So we relate to the abundant literature on the measurement of inequality and its decomposition, which originates from Atkinson. He was the first to show that when a Lorenz curve lies perfectly above another, this can be preferred in terms of aggregate welfare, whatever the form of the social welfare function. And as this result is valid only for distribution with the same mean income, we apply generalized Lorenz curve, because climate change is changing the mean income. We also apply delta Lorenz curve for going deep in the distribution, and we also decompose à la Shapley. This is a decomposition based on the Shapley value. And this paper also contributes to the climate change impacts the literature on the climate change impacts on agriculture, and more precisely, the very emerging literature on the distributional effects of climate change on on agriculture. We may cite, for instance, De Paula, which found that for Brazilian agriculture, an increase in 1 degree Celsius might be more detrimental for for farmland with high value, and Malikov that found, on the contrary, that it could be more detrimental for the lowest the lowest deciles. So climate change might increase inequality. So in this paper, our modeling framework relies on on a soft coupling between a microeconomic model of the supply side of agricultural production in Europe and a crop model that provides us in yield functions. So the microeconomic model has the main advantage of providing aggregate results for the EU 27, while still covering a large diversity of context in terms of region, type of farming, altitude, for instance. And so this work, rather than a prospective exercise on the future state of the European agriculture, so it might be seen as the analysis of the effect of climate change, all other things being equal, on European agriculture. So our contribution is twofold. First, we assess the potential distributional consequences of farmers' autonomous adaptation to climate change, and then we quantify the marginal contributions of the two main drivers that are the region and type of farming to this income variation induced by climate change. So the contribution is not theoretical at all, but just to clarify what we call autonomous adaptation. So consider that you have a farmer that is producing two crops, 1 and 2, with a variable input, for instance, fertilizers and farmland. So he gets a maximized profit from selling his production, and a change in a climate parameter, for instance, temperature, might induce an intensive margin effect. So a change in the fertilizers allocated, an extensive margin effect concerning the area allocated to each crop, and a direct effect of the temperature. So this is basically an agronomic effect from temperature on the production. So we rely on a microeconomic model of the European Union. So in this model, farmers are assumed to be price taker, and they maximize their gross margin under a set of constraints. So constraints might be political from the CAP, or physiological, for instance, with animal feeding. And this model is calibrating on FADN data, representing 70,000 farms, grouped into a bit less than 2,000 farm types for, and that represents 3.7 million of European full-time farmers. So it's only crop culture and cattle breeding production. So we don't have in the model perennial crops or orchards, for instance. And we also have a soft coupling with the STIX model, which deliver the yield functions in different climate for different types of soil and plants. Okay, so to study climate change, we implemented the scenario from the previous IPCC report, which is the RCP 4.5, and it is translated into weather variables by the LSCE atmospheric model, and we focus on a representative climatic year for the period 2071, 2100. And so this is this year is is representing the future climate, and we also focus on the one representative year for the actual period. We have two levels of autonomous adaptation. So in the weak adaptation scenario, farmers might adapt to a change in weather conditions, but they don't have new crops culture. No, they just can switch from crops culture, but that they were already doing. So basically, it's a change in crop area and a change in fertilizers. And in the smart adaptation scenario, we had the possibilities of changing the sowing date, for instance, but also crop varieties that might be more suitable for the new weather conditions. So I deliver you some aggregate results. So here left, it's the total changes in area and yields in the right with respect to the baseline scenario. So for the year 2016. So for instance, in green, it's the second scenario, what I call the smart adaptation scenario. So we can see that yield strongly increased for corn and wheat to the depend of grassland that is importantly reducing. But this increase in production might be nuanced by this. So this is the change in input left and the change in gross margin right. You can see that the demand in irrigation water is also importantly increasing as the demand in fertilizers. So this results in an increase in the gross margin. Okay, so if we go into the distributional analysis, for the distribution, we estimate an income from farmers by dividing the gross margin by the unpaid workers on the farm. So it's not the same if it's a couple working on the farm or if it's only one person. So left it's the Lorenz curve and right the delta Lorenz curve. So we can see that Lorenz curves are quite close, and also we remove the negative values from the analysis because we have negative incomes, and we can talk about this. This is not fully satisfactory, but it's in line in the literature to study distributional impacts, as it makes very difficult to interpret this type of curves when there's a negative income. So we have like 98% of our initial samples. It's only minus than 2% of negative incomes. So and we can see that the distribution are quite close, and but still on the right we can see that the first income deciles increase their income share in the total income, whereas the climate change is very detrimental for deciles in the upper middle of the distribution. So if we turn into generalized Lorenz curve, we can see that the generalized Lorenz curve of the smart adaptation scenario is entirely lying above the baseline Lorenz curve. So this is due to the increase in income share for the first deciles and the increase in total income. So now we can wonder what are the main drivers of this distributional effect. So here I represent the mean regional income variation in the case for the two scenarios with respect to the baseline scenario. So left it's it's in the weak scenario, and right, it's in the smart adaptation. So we can see that, for instance, in the smart adaptation scenario, there are a large number of regions where the mean income is increasing, but still climate change is detrimental for, for instance, south of Italy or Portugal or Spain, so Mediterranean regions. So if we have a look at the mean income variation with respect to type of farming, we also can see that there is an important diversity. Like for instance, specialist cereals might increase their income by 30%, whereas for cattle breeding, it's almost the same the same income. So to decompose this inequality, I use the Shapley value. So the variation in income delta Y might be expressed for farmers as the mean of the variation income in the region plus the mean of the variation income in the region and in this type of farming minus the mean variation in income in the region and a rest. So this basically is the decomposition, where we can see that we have a region effect, a type of farming effect, and a rest. So we have two decomposition order because we can begin by the region or the type of farming, and then we apply our Shapley value to identify the marginal contribution of each characteristic to overall inequality. And the result show that region and type of farming contributes importantly to this this inequality in income variation. For instance, in the case of the smart adaptation scenario, almost more than 40% is explained by the region, and almost 1/3 is explained by the type of farming. Okay, so we saw in this paper that all other things being equal, climate change could lead to a better situation in terms of social welfare due to an increase in income share for the first quintiles and an increase in average income. This, however, can be nuanced by the strong increase in demand for fertilizers or for water inputs. And we also show that region and type of farming importantly contributes to explain this inequality of income variation that might be induced by climate change. So our study suffers from a lot of limitations. There are limitations, a set of limitations due to the underlying assumption of the model we use. The farm structure is fixed, so we don't change it, and prices are also exogenous. And we can imagine that climate change will have an effect on food prices. But this is also a strength of the model because it enables us to do this study, all other things being equal. And we are not also taking into account extreme weather events that might be increasing by climate change. And we also don't take into account, for instance, the possible increase of disease, plant disease, due to a change in temperature. So this work could be extended into several ways. For instance, the analysis might concern other regions. We may expect different results from regions where the agriculture is differently structured, and we could also study the distributional effect of an increase in the frequency of extreme weather events. And thank you for your attention.
Merci, Maxime. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to be here today and to discuss the paper of Maxime. So the paper, I will briefly give you an overview of the paper. So the research question, there are two research questions actually. The first one is how farmers in Europe adapt to climate change, and how are the distributional consequences of this, how are the distributional consequences of farmers' adaptation to climate change. In terms of methodology, the paper is very rich. There is a theoretical framework. Then Maxime is using a microeconomic model Arropage and the crop model STIX for the simulations. The data used is from IFADN, which observes EU farmers at the farmer level. There are two simulated scenarios: weak adaptation and smart adaptation. And Maxime is measuring inequality with the Lorenz and another form of Lorenz curve, and there is also the decomposition of inequality to understand the sources of this inequality. In terms of results, they show that the climate change will increase global aggregate welfare for the farmers at the EU level, but with high spatial heterogeneity. And for concerning the inequality, there are two main drivers of adaptation inequality: the region, so this spatial heterogeneity, and the type of farming. So I have two kind of questions or remarks. For the first one are more specific to the work and to the paper. I was a little bit surprised by you are using this autonomous adaptation, this wording, and then in the simulation part you are using this smart and weak adaptation. And I checked in the IPCC reports, they were talking about autonomous adaptation and planned adaptation. Autonomous adaptation is when you are using actual technology to adapt. And planned one is when you are investing in new technology. So I was wondering how you consider this way of describing adaptation in your case. Are you considering that weak and smart means short-term, long-term adaptation? How about costs of these two scenarios? It looks like there is no discussion about the differences between these two scenarios. You are talking about the choices which are different in each case, but how costly is each choice? It is easily for the farmer to have this weak and or this smart. How could he choose, and whether there is a difference between costs among these two types of adaptation? Concerning the inequality, you choose this Gini index and the Lorenz curve, and I was wondering if you could consider, because in the literature there is a lot of discussion on how it is a very restrictive way of considering inequality, and you could maybe consider other metrics like tail index, Atkinson index, or also ratio of percentile, and maybe this would be a robustness check of your results to calculate another index of inequality and to compare how your results are robust to the choice of index. As I told before, your results are when you present the result that the aggregate welfare is increasing. This is true, but this hides a very, very high spatial variability. So I'm not sure that you can say that the aggregate welfare is increasing, because if I'm not sure that this increase is significant, for example. So I invite you to provide standard deviation each time you provide the results, and also to show some confidence intervals to be sure that we are not hiding a lot of differences among farmers in EU when talking about the impacts of climate change. Something which is missing also is in the literature, you don't compare your results to the literature, at least from the climate change impacts. There is large literature, so you could just say a word on whether you are in the range of what has been shown in the literature or not. Concerning the decomposition, I was a little bit surprised because I'm not familiar at all with this Shapley decomposition. But I am an econometrician, so I was wondering why you don't use an econometric model to decompose, to try to find what are the drivers of this inequality, or how could you explain this inequality depending on other variables that you have in your data. So we could discuss maybe this later. I'm not sure that to understand very well the inequality you are measuring, how it is linked to the inequality you have before, because before climate change you have inequality, and you show that adaptation affects inequality or induce inequality. So I don't know if we could compare inequality before adaptation with no adaptation and inequality with adaptation. That this is going the same way or the other way. I have also some very general questions, which are things that you could just think about. Your results show, for example, that this smart adaptation will induce the use of more fertilizers and more water. So I was wondering, how smart is this adaptation? It's actually not smart at all. So maybe the word... Yeah, so at least, yeah, and for example, my second point is concerning mitigation versus adaptation. If you use more fertilizers, then you are inducing more greenhouse gas emissions, and from the mitigation point of view, it's not a good news at all. So I don't know if you could discuss this point. The third point is concerning trade-off. I told you already about this short-term versus long-term adaptation. How could policies try to choose between adapting for the short term or adapting for the long term versus all environmental or economic policies that we are talking about every day? So we have a trade-off between because actually adaptation is a long-term thing, but we are taking right now some decisions concerning environmental and economic policies which will not have the same impacts on climate change and will not go in the same way as as adaptation policies. Yeah, I was wondering how could your results be useful for policymakers? If you could give advices to the policies in terms of adaptation, smart ones, which one you could advise, and also concerning inequality, what would you how useful are your results in terms of policymakers to reduce inequality in the context of climate change? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raja. Concerning the adaptation, when I called it autonomous, do you mean that planned it's planned by a public decider? No, for it's autonomous. It's only for farmers. So we just have a farmer that changed their crop allocation and their fertilizer allocation, and this is in the two scenarios. So I don't have short-term and long-term adaptation because farmers are changing their practice in both scenario, but they are changing it in the same way. It's just that in the smart one, you have more crop crop culture that you can use, and perhaps smart is not the good way to to name them, I should have put strong perhaps, but it's like it's a level of adaptation which is higher because you have new culture and you can change the sowing date also in the model, so they can adapt through this, and yeah, there's no cost because we make the assumption that a farmer cannot switch his production from I don't know, crop culture to poultry. This is adaptation in not that strong way. So there is no cost because when you produce like corn or wheat in 2016, you will still produce it in the climate change scenario, but not in the same proportion. So we don't have a cost to adapt. And about index, yes, I choose to focus on the Lorenz curve because it has consequences in terms of social welfare compared to other these other indices. But I could try to compare with the TEI index or an Atkinson index. I think the result might be better with an Atkinson index because Atkinson index favors the lowest income in the distribution, and we can see it with the Lorenz curve. And yes, I didn't compare the result with the literature. And for on the decomposition, I choose to use this Shapley value because it's quite documented in the literature on inequality. This is used to disaggregate income inequality index like TEI or Gini, and I found this method, and so I implemented it. But sure, we can use an econometric model, but yeah, because if you use an econometric model, you want to regress the. I don't know how we can use an econometric model. Okay. Yeah, well, smart is not so smart because there's a huge increase in water irrigation. We should note that the increase in water irrigation only concerns farmers that already have access to irrigation in the baseline scenario. So you cannot increase irrigation if you don't have already an access to irrigation. And yes, this can be a trade-off between adaptation and and mitigation interaction, because fertilizers accounts for an important share of greenhouse gas emissions in agriculture, and here we can see that climate change is increasing their consumption. So sure, there is an important interaction between adaptation and and mitigation. And in terms of policies, yes, it could be interesting to see if the implementation of mitigation policies might might change the adaptation for farmers and have distributional consequences on the agricultural system. So I don't know if there is a other question. I don't. We have 5 minutes. So we have 5 minutes more. So I don't know if there is other question from the audience. All right.
It's okay, Anna. Yeah, it's okay. Thanks. When you were presenting the the maps of the results and looking at kind of the spatial inequalities in the like looking at the weak strategy versus the smart strategy, and there are certain regions that actually do better and that are better off. It seemed, from what I understood, from the weak strategy. So I was wondering if you could maybe explain that a little bit and maybe give what it means like for policies or for specific regions.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake for these two regions. I just noticed it before the presentation, but I have to check something.
So you can see how attentive we are.
But no, it's a mistake because it's not possible, because in the smart scenario you have all the culture, that the crop culture that you have in the weak one, but you have more than that. So I have to check.
Other questions or remarks?
Can we take innovation into account, like vertical gardens and
No, we don't change the farm structure. So so basically farms are the same in the two scenarios. So there is agronomic innovation, because you have new crop varieties in the climate change scenario, but there is no innovation in the structure of the